This is a demonstration of modular skills. I am an elementalist. I have 3 active skills: Nova, Spheres and Orb. Nova is a typical Nova, a circle that deals damage to all enemies nearby. Spheres look like this. You launch 5 spheres and each of them can hit 1 enemy. Orb looks like this. It's a small orb that travels in a straight line, releasing little shards. The orb itself deals no damage, but the shards do. There's a sweet spot at the end where it releases multiple shards that can hit a single enemy. What do I mean by modular? I mean that each of these skills can be changed to different modes. For example, Nova has a default mode of lightning. I can change this by selecting Fire Mastery. I now have a Fire Nova. I can also select Cold Mastery and now I have a Frost Nova. The same goes for the other skills. These are the cold spheres. I can turn them into a charge bolt, or into fire. As for the orb, I can turn it into a lightning orb or a fire orb, in addition to the default mode. This concept extends to other classes as well. I am now a battle mage. I have elemental strike. The default mode of elemental strike is electric strike. If I don't have any masteries from the wizard class, this skill will be an electric strike, dealing lightning damage on hit. The priority goes default, lightning, fire and cold. If I select lightning, nothing will change. If I select Fire Mastery, this will become a Flaming Strike, and if I select Cold Mastery, it will become a Chilling Strike, and all of these are in one single skill. Another example of a modular skill is Burst Attack. It sets off a physical burst that deals damage to all enemies on hit. The cold version of a Burst Attack is called Freezing Burst. The fire version is called Immolation, and the lightning version is called Lightning Burst. We have also retired an old mechanic which limited the number of AoE targets that spells could hit. Previously, when you cast a meteor like this, you would hit a specific number of targets. Now it simply hits all targets in that range. Skill proc properties are item properties that can proc skills on certain actions. Pinnacle is an example of a unique item that has a skill proc property. It has 10% chance to cast Orb on attack. You don't actually have to hit the enemy, you just have to attack. And 10% of the time it's going to proc an Orb. The Orb is going to use your elemental mode, so if I change this to fire, we're gonna get a Fire Orb instead. Here are all the unique items that use skill proc properties. In addition to these, skill proc properties can spawn on weapons randomly. If you want to check these items closer, just pause the video. Splendor is a skill that increases the chance of a skill proc property to proc. Reforging no longer has a penalty to the value of the item. However, we have added around 50 new item properties that can only spawn on recently dropped items. Imbuing now shows the effect rolled in the chat box, so you don't have to look at the item itself. Reforging can now be automated. I have a rare rapier equipped. Normally I would press 2 over and over to reforge this one. But let's say there is a certain item property that I desire. Let's do fire damage on hit. If I press reforge while holding Ctrl, Alt and Shift, it's going to start a process of automatic reforging until this criteria is fulfilled. So this rapier now has fire damage on hit. There are multiple new crafting methods. Modify means that you reroll all the item properties of an item. Tailor means that you reroll all the item properties of the item, but if the new roll is lower than the previous one, it doesn't replace it. This way you can only improve the item by tailoring it. In the chat you will find messages telling you if it's still possible to improve the item. At some point it's no longer possible to improve the item, and it tells you in the chat and doesn't let you spend more bounty tokens. Another new crafting method is themed weapons. A themed weapon is crafted and gets a set of guaranteed item properties. For example, power gets you enhanced damage, deadly strike, attack speed, crit chance with attacks, and each of these themes gives you a certain set of item properties. The rest of the item properties of the item are filled out with random properties. Paragon is a buff that can be acquired in a variety of ways. In this case, it has spawned on a wizard hat. When I equip the wizard hat, it grants me access to the Paragon skill. Paragon is a targeted buff, but unlike other buffs, it has an array of effects. The effects of the Paragon buff are determined by whichever class you have the most skill points allocated in. In my case, it's Wizard because I have 6 skill points. In addition, a class is only eligible for Paragon if it has at least 5 skill points allocated. Each class grants a different array of effects for the Paragon buff. To see those effects, hover above each class in the character sheet when you have access to the Paragon buff. To cast it, simply target yourself or someone else. If you target someone else, they will get your Paragon, not theirs. In this video, I am going to turn Haste into a passive skill. Haste is a semi-active skill, which means you can only have one active at a time, normally. If I was to allocate Haste and activate it, I would attack somewhat faster than I would without it. However, there's a new item property that can spawn on helmets. I will now craft this helmet into a Haste helmet. I'm using the automatic reforging. Now we just have to wait until this helmet is a Haste helmet. This helmet now grants Haste semi-active skill, while you have at least 9 skills allocated in its class. Its class is Scout. Notice that I do not have Haste activated. I don't even have it bound to any key right now. I now activate the 9th skill, and we can see that my attack speed increases considerably. This means that Haste is now active. Charges now have intrinsic effects. Look at Meteor, it has 80% damage bonus right now. If I give myself an Eminence charge, this is going to increase to 90%. So Eminence charges now have the intrinsic effect of adding 10% to all damage. Remember, they can be stacked. Agony charges increase the critical strike chance with attacks. And Madness charges increase your attack speed. We've also added a new type of charge called Energy Charge. I have a unique shield that grants me an energy charge whenever I block. Now that I have generated energy charges, I can consume them. Each time I attack or cast a spell, 1 energy charge is consumed, and that attack or spell deals 50% increased damage. You can see the energy charges swirl around you and disappear as you use them. Otherwise, they have the same mechanics as other charges, the same max charges and the same duration. Energy charges can be generated in a variety of ways. The Archmage has an active skill called Energy. You can spam it and generate charges as long as you want. and then enter the battle with them and consume them. The Engineer has Energy Battery, which generates 1 energy charge each second. The Cleric has Inquisition, which generates 1 energy charge for each enemy you kill. There are also more ways to generate all types of charges now, with item properties that can spawn randomly. This rapier has 75% chance to inflict bleed on hit. Bleed is an effect that deals 4 damage per caster level per second. This weapon, however, has 44% increased bleed damage, 48% physical damage versus bleeding enemies, therefore I deal twice as much damage. The class that is strongest associated with bleed is Rogue. It has Slice, which gives you a chance to bleed and increases bleed damage by 100%. It also has Rupture, which makes enemies take damage as they move while bleeding. There are many item properties that interact with bleed. Here are the 3 unique items that interact with bleed. This is in addition to the gore crafting. Infused Bolt is a new skill. It pierces all targets, it is target seeking, and it can hit the same target any number of times. It also procs all things that would have procced if you were attacking. For example, have Hellfire Vortex Unique Gloves, which add 65 damage on hit. The 5 damage is added when I hit with the bolt. The sub-plane version of Infused Bolt is called Poltergeist. Like Infused Bolt, it can hit the same enemy more than once, but it does not add any of your own hit properties. However, it deals full damage from the start. Here are some new unique items. You can pause the video if you want to look closer. The Skeleton Archer Summon now gets Spears and Headshot. Golems get a Polearm and Electric Strike. Outsiders now get Cleave. Two-handed weapons now deal more damage. There are set items, and if an item is part of a set, it says so in its description. We revised the taunts. More areas have specific layouts now. When you enter a new area, information about its mechanics appear in the bottom right. When a boss spawns, its mechanics appear in the bottom right. Specific resistance auras have been removed and are replaced by Unity. Alien techs can now have auras. Dragons have breath weapons. Training dummies no longer spawn as special mobs. Subplane sparks now show their subplane version in their description. We've revised the shapes. For all other changes, see the full changelog. Most of the things are not easy to show in a video.